Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Jim Keat, the digital minister at the Riverside Church.
And I am Reverend Adriene Thorne, the senior minister at the Riverside Church. And this
This,
is the Word Made Fresh. Oh, shoot.
ah,
You know what?
I'm missing already a couple episodes ago when I was in your office and we could just do this on the couch together.
And this is the Word Made Fresh.
But alas, here we are, separated once again by whatever distance is between Michigan and New York. But the Word Made Fresh, weekly video Bible study lectionary resource where we talk about upcoming narrative lectionary passages. You can use ideas for your sermons, Bible studies, or just because you're a Bible geek. I brought my big Bible out this time. I have the little one still, don't worry. I have all the Bibles. So we're going to talk about specifically Esther, and I believe the passage for the narrative lectionary is Esther chapter 4. Can you give us any focusing that we need to look at? What's going on in this part of the narrative lectionary that's happening for this coming Sunday?
Well, Esther has learned that her people, the Jewish people, are in danger. That the king's right-hand person, Haman, has built a scaffold to hang not only her kinsman, Mordecai, but all the Jews. And she is scared, as we all might be, to come to the king, to the person in power, and say this terrible thing cannot happen. But her kinsman says to her, you might have come to your position for such a time as this, and don't think that your position is going to save you.
Yeah.
It's a life and death moment. She could die. She's going to die either way, I think, is what her kinsman is saying to her. So you may as well step up. Yeah. And so this notion of power, this notion of access, I'm thinking about that a lot in terms not only of the Advent season and kind of how we navigate and move in our lives, but also in terms of, those of us who live in countries where we have access and power, but often I think convince ourselves that we don't. So what are we doing differently in this Advent season? Our theme this week is turn. And I'm thinking a lot about how we are turning this season and turning our participation and behavior in this Advent season in a way that matters. We've got asylum seekers here in New York. Our food pantry numbers have doubled. The food prices have tripled. But the 2024 election has begun. There's so many things that are churning in our hearts and minds. Yeah. And I think sometimes we think, oh, you know what, I'll just go shopping. I think there's another direction that we could turn in. So that's what I'm playing with.
So easy stuff, right? The world is on fire and all we want to do is decorate Christmas trees.
Right.
Good luck. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Because there is a call to us, I think, as there was to Esther. We could bury ourselves in chestnuts roasting on an open fire or all the trappings of the holiday because it is so overwhelming, right, Jim?
Yep.
People need housing. People need money. And maybe we feel that we don't have much power, money, or access. But I think while we might not make a mark in the grand way that Esther did, I mean, she saved her people. That is just tremendous. But we might be able to save a person. And I don't even want to say might. I'm sure there is a person that we could make a world of difference for, that our little bit of money, a little bit of power, and a little bit of access could really make a difference for in this season that would be in keeping with the coming of the Christ child. So that's what I'm thinking about.
That kind of thing is always on my mind this Christmas season. I live in Frankenmuth, Michigan, which is known as Christmas Town. It has I think the country's largest Christmas store called Bronner's. And so one of my running routes, a 5-mile route, takes me through their parking lot. And I'm usually running, if I can, early in the morning before they open. But they still have Christmas music playing year-round in their parking lot. So there's always this irony, I find, especially during the holiday season, when you hear it's the most wonderful time of the year. I'm always like, well, for whom exactly is it the most wonderful time? Because for some people, just look at the headlines. This is the exact opposite of that. If for no other fact than the holidays themselves can highlight people's isolation or loss and grief And so it can be such a tension. And I think what you're saying, what can we do for such a time as this moment in time, this holiday season, because it's not the most wonderful time for all of us. So how can we use that privilege and access to help others have a bit more wonderful of a life?
Absolutely. I love what you said, but it also invited me into a different space. At first, I bristled, like I think you did, this notion of Christmas all year round. But the gospel actually does call us to live Christmas all year round. And Thurman's got that amazing prayer about the work of Christmas beginning. Now the work of Christmas begins, to feed the hungry and to visit the imprisoned and to do
Ooh,
the work. After all the boxes have been opened and all the wrapping paper has been tossed out,
yes.
the real work of Christmas begins. Because the most wonderful time of the year is possible if we, like Esther, step up, right? If
Yes.
we turn from burying ourselves in the eggnog and the rum cake or fruit cake, whatever. I don't know what you eat, but we bury ourselves in this
Yeah.
time of year. Like how many homeless people have I walked by just today alone that I
Mm.
didn't really engage with, know the names of, and it might not be that real for people where they are, where they're listening to this conversation. Um, but I think with some intentionality, we could do an Esther this Advent, this Christmas, and
Mm.
throughout the year, right?
Yes.
Because we are here
Advent.
for such a time.
Yeah. Advent can be a good time to try it out, practice it, and then keep
Oh,
doing it all year long.
oh yeah. So let me tell you this awesome story, and then maybe you'll want to wrap up. I met this amazing woman at a retreat, and she lived in Brooklyn, where I live. And in downtown Brooklyn, the courthouses exist in this part of Brooklyn where I live. And there was a homeless guy that she would see all the time. And she didn't want to give money, but every day that she would pack her lunch, she would pack another lunch for the guy and give it to him. And then she asked him, what kind of sandwich actually would you like? So then she was making the sandwich that he wanted. And this was going on for months. And then one day, she realized she had never asked him his name. And she
Mm.
said, here's your sandwich. I never asked you your name. What is it? He said, Jesus. My name is Jesus. And she was like, come on. And he was like, and not Jesus, Jesus. And I just thought, what an amazing story that
Yeah.
she's like, and I've been making lunch for Jesus for the last several months. And
Without
isn't
even knowing it.
that what we're after, I think, in
Mm.
this season? To be taking care of Jesus, this baby, this child that's on the way to turn everything
Mm.
we know about love and power on its head.
Mm. Now, I do have to ask before we close this whole fantastic episode. You've been talking with our Mission and Social Justice Commission. We call them MSJ. I know this coming weekend is the Sunday right after World AIDS Day, which is was the beginning of December. How are those pieces working their way into what you're concocting for the pulpit this Sunday?
Yeah, well, our LGBTQIA plus ministry, Maranatha, will be serving in worship this Sunday, on December 4th. So not only reading the prayers and reading scripture, but also helping clergy to serve communion, gathering around the table with us to share in a collective prayer for those living with HIV and AIDS. It's going to be a really powerful moment. I'm told by some members of the community that they've never been at the table in that
Mm.
way. So I think it's going to be powerful to have lay leaders and clergy leaders together, blessing the table, gathering together to share the elements. And I think that's a powerful witness for those in the LGBTQ plus community, as well as those living with HIV and AIDS and those we have lost. Because as you know, the church did not do the best job of welcoming and loving those who struggled with HIV and AIDS back in the 80s when it hit the scene. So it feels healing in a way, and right in a way, that we get to be at the table together, to celebrate
Mm.
together, and to remember lives lost together, even as we break the bread and share the cup of one who laid down his life for all the
Yeah.
children. Yeah.
I just think even things as simple as that phrase from Esther, for such a time as this, and then to think about those whom have never been invited to stand on that side of the communion table for such a time as this, That simple phrase has so much, it's a big umbrella that we can, once you start using that lens, you see so many things in a new, fresh way, and it all has these lovely shades of justice on it. That's really
Yeah.
rich.
Yeah, and I hope for this Advent it's got some lovely shades of purple for people too. Because for such a time as this, how are we going to do Advent different this year?
Yeah.
Are we going to watch and turn and see and dream, the four themes that we've selected to focus on here at Riverside? How are we going to do justice for such a time as this? And how are we
Yeah.
going to love queer community for such a time as this? And how are we going to embody baby Jesus and welcome him in the Jesuses that we make lunch for such a time as this? You like the way we kind of just knit all that back together?
Okay, before we go though, I do have my one and favorite Esther trivia question, which I think you know the answer to. So I'm going to ask it, and you have to pause and wait. But everyone watching can leave your answer in a comment. So all of you, here it is. How many times is God in the book of Esther? This is every seminary geek's favorite question.
Is God in there, or is God mentioned?
Oh, I know. That's the trick way to phrase it, because technically, how many times is God mentioned? What's the answer, Reverend Thorne?
0. But God is
It's
all
the
over
only
the
book, right? Esther's the only book in the entire canon that doesn't mention the name of God.
I thought there were 2. I thought. So am I wrong about Ruth?
Oh, I'll Google it and I'll insert it here in the video. Here's the real answer. Well, back to Esther though. God is not mentioned, but God is definitely present in the book of Esther.
Amen.
All right. Well, everybody, if you have questions about Esther, where this is going, you know what to do. Drop a comment. Share this video with someone that you think would be helpful. This is a podcast, too. You can also just listen to it on your commute in that way. So search for The Word Made Fresh wherever you get your podcasts. And join us at Riverside. If you're looking for a church to worship at this Sunday, you can join us on site in New York City, or you can just head over to trcnyc.org to join us online from wherever you have an internet connection and see what sort of sermon Reverend Thorne concocts for us all. And we'll keep going week after week. Advent is just getting started. It's actually almost halfway over. Wow. Okay. That's too quick. It's a blur. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do more next week. I'll talk to you then.
Bye, everybody.